What is going on,
Welcome
everybody?
to the Chasing
Welcome
Larger
to the
Sports
Chasing Larger
Stories
Sports Stories podcast. Just
to
going
the
at the
Chasing
same
Larger
time.
Sports Story podcast. I am your host, Chase, and this is the co-host, Derek Larger, everybody. We've got a great set of topics for you today. All right, Let's get into the first topic, starting with the Hard Knocks video, the hype video that they have for the Detroit Lions.
Yes.
Derek,
Let me get that up. I gotta find that.
What is your thoughts on the Hard Knocks and the behind the scenes look of how Dan Campbell is running the Lions organization, and what we have to expect from the Detroit Lions this year with the new additions of Jamison Williams, DJ Chark, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Aiden Hutchinson on the defensive side of the ball, along with a much improved offensive line and a much beefier DeAndre Swift.
Oh, dude! Well, before I even get into that, I gotta show the video itself, because the video that went out today, I don't know about you, Chase, but it made me want to run through a freaking wall, like hearing this. So I want to show this, and then I want to play it, and hopefully everybody can hear it. So,
Bring it up. I'm gonna let y'all know, man. Today is the minimum of effort. Do not give up. Do not feel like you're tired. When you tired, think of last year and think of that record. Every time I get tired or I think I can't go no more, I think of that record. Last year wasn't it. That ain't us. We can make it. Have some heart. I get emotional about this. I'm about to cry because I care about y'all. Do your best. Let's go. Lions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Lions.
Love it, dude. Love it. I just, hearing that, it just re-emphasizes the point that we all felt from last season when Dan Campbell came in as the head coach, is that this is not just about a football team anymore. This is about building a culture inside this locker room of guys who maybe sometimes are not as talented as these other teams that you play against, but these guys have freaking heart. They got heart, and they have an attitude. And you saw Jamal Williams just talk about it, about wanting to absolutely go to the very end to make sure that this next season is not going to turn out the same way that it was before. And, obviously the Colts are number one in my heart, but for my secondary team, the freaking Lions, man, seem to me like they're rubbing off on me a lot. I love Dan Campbell. I love him as a coach and as a mentor to these young guys. And obviously what he has been preaching to these guys has really been coming to them in waves in regards to the emotion. I think you're definitely going to see a different Lions team this year. Definitely a team that can win more games because they're going to fight for every win that they get. And I mean, what they've got, they got some good players out there. They got some good boys out there that can make some good plays. Like you said, Amon St. Brown definitely is out there playing very well. Swift can make some good plays here and there. That defense has a few guys on it that, if they're healthy, can really start to elevate that play. I just think this next year, you're going to see a different Lions team. Do we see them win 8-9 games? No, I don't think so. But you could see this. I could see this team winning six games potentially next season, maybe even 7. For as much heart as this team has for each other and the way they want to play this game. When you got leaders like that talking about running through a wall to be better than what their record showed last year. I mean, I love it. I love what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the Lions, they've always had a special place in my heart. A lot of my family on different parts like the Lions. I know my uncle that passed was a big Lions fan. And I was not keen on Dan Campbell as a hire because last time he had a head coaching position, granted it was an intern head coach, he didn't do too well. And I wasn't sure how he was going to, step into that role and become a head coach. But, this is this job that he wanted. He played for the Lions. He wants to help change his team around. And not to mention, the guys fought for him tooth and nail last year. They never gave up in adversity of going 0-13 and the fear of going 0-17 for the first time ever and winless for the second time ever in franchise history was looming. And, you know, they are changing everything around. They've got the key pieces that are coming to play. I think that they still need a few more. They need a little bit more help in the secondary, a little bit more help on the D line, a little bit more help on the linebackers, and then they need ultimately their franchise quarterback. I mean, getting rid of Stafford now, they got 2 first-rounders this next year. It's a great quarterback draft. You know, now's your chance to get a guy for the future. Sign Goff for 1 more year. Let the QB sit and develop. Let Goff take over the reins and bring this up-and-coming team to where it needs to be. That way, whoever steps in can take this team to the next level. And I think that we are looking at a playoff Lions team next year instead of this year.
Ooh, wow. All right, so you're already saying that. Wow.
Bold prediction, Derek. But like
okay.
with what they've put into play, I do see it. I'm calling it now. The Lions will make it as a wild card team next year.
I'm not going to knock it. I'm not going to knock it. I think that just the bigger part of it is just not talent. It's about culture in that locker room. And for so many years, Detroit's not had a good locker room culture. It really has felt like for 20 years, it has felt like it has just been going through the motions. And for all Lions fans, they understand that. They know that. They've been through it. So, you know, as a Lions fan yourself, this team may not be as talented as some of the best teams that you've ever had. Of course not. But when you look at like the culture these guys have now, it makes you so happy as a Lions fan to see that, because it gives you hope. It gives you hope that with a few good pieces around this team, there is something that's going to make this right. And I mean, we know that they got some good young guys. They obviously got Penei Sewell, who's coming into his own now at right tackle. You got Adam Hutchinson, who you think is going to end up being a really good player for you, that you got with the number 2 pick. You got a couple other guys over there. You know, I think this Lions team is going to start surprising people. I really do think they will. Because like you said, last year, they played hard for that man. They played hard for that man every single Sunday. Didn't matter if they lost. They gave it their all. They gave it their all every single time to beat the teams that they did beat, and everyone else they didn't. And I love that about a coach that can change the locker room like that.
Oh, yeah. No, they absolutely believe in this guy and everything that he's got brought to the table. Like, you know, I could see it in the team in their face when they were playing the Browns last year, when I was at that game for my birthday, and I could just see the fight in them and the fight that they have. You know, you could take the fight out of the lion, but you can't take the lion out of the fight. So yep. It's gonna be interesting because they had nobody last year except for, you know, a couple pieces here and there. Now that they are truly building a team and can truly, you know, build from scratch and bring in free agents and like help build this core around some key pieces, this locker room is going to be coming together. This team's coming together. And when you get the most important piece on that team, the quarterback, this team will thrive. And I'm predicting a couple NFC North titles NFC North titles in their future. I'm predicting a playoff win or 2 in their future. I'm not going to say Super Bowl yet because we'll have to wait and see, you know, what they got building in the future. But I'm definitely predicting playoffs, and I'm predicting at least 1, maybe 2 playoff wins.
I feel you on that. Let's go to the next topic. And it was one that you and I kept talking about all Sunday. There were reports about Kareem Hunt wanting to ask for a trade if he couldn't get an extension. Well, Sunday morning, that turned out to be true. Did ask the Cleveland Browns for a trade, requesting it since a new extension was not reached. Apparently, it was not close enough to where Kareem thought it was even a chance. And so the Browns have issued a statement that they have no intentions of trading Kareem Hunt. So Kareem Hunt is basically forced to either sit the season out or play through the rest of this contract until he hits free agency next season. So, obviously you're the Browns fan here, Chase. How does it feel knowing this situation? Obviously, I don't think this is going to impact Kareem too much. Now, obviously, it hurts his chances of being re-signed, but as far as the season goes, I don't think it's going to change too much. But how did you feel when you heard this news that Kareem was requesting a trade out of Cleveland?
I'll start off by saying this. I really don't think it's going to hurt Kareem that much because, everybody thought the same thing with David Njoku. When he requested a trade, they thought the bridges were burned between him and the front office, and he ended up getting a deal that inked him to Cleveland for the next 4 years. So I think that Andrew Berry is a guy who wants production and believes in key pieces. And if he thinks that Kareem Hunt is a piece that's going to get us, over the hump and, to the promised land, he'll keep him around. And he's a guy that, is a mad genius when it comes to that kind of stuff. I think what he wants to do is he wants to see Kareem in action this year, make sure he's going to stay fully healthy and be able to play for 90%, if not all of the season. And then once the season's over, they will ink a contract extension for the next 3 years, maybe more. And, Kareem Hunt has issued statements, said it verbatim, even on social media, that he absolutely adores Cleveland. He grew up in the area. He grew up a Browns fan, watching them on TV. His parents live in Ohio. He's done nothing but, wish that he could play for them. And it was a dream come true, he said, playing for this team. And he wants to finish his career out in Cleveland. It's just a matter of if Andrew Berry and the Browns want him there. And with the way that Andrew Berry is, I think that he wants to see what he's buying before he buys it. And I ultimately think that if they do end up trading Kareem Hunt, you could easily get a first-round pick for him because he is an RB1 on anybody's roster, hands down, and he is that good of talent that he could step in and be a game changer immediately for anybody that needs him. I can know one team right now, the Buffalo Bills would gladly give up a first-round draft pick for him to go on their team, and he could be the missing piece that they need to push them over the edge and go to the Super Bowl. I mean, I'm not joking. Like I would love to keep Kareem Hunt there, but like we got Jerome Ford that we just drafted. Dearness Johnson stepped in, didn't miss a beat last year. And then we got to see what Demetric Felton is going to do. Obviously, we've got him working at wide receiver more, but like there are teams that are willing to offer a first-round pick for a dominant running back like Kareem Hunt. And we saw last time he was able to be a running back by himself, he led the league in rushing, and almost had 1,000 yards rushing, splitting carries with Chubb. Like he had 892 or something. So he almost had 1,000 yards splitting carries with Chubb and not getting as many as what he should have had. So the talent's there with that guy. So it's all a matter of what Andrew Berry wants to do, and it's all in his hands.
Well, I'm sure that the play of your third string running back last year definitely made Andrew Berry probably open his eyes a little bit to think, yeah, I mean, who needs Kareem when I got my third string running back out here still running for 150 yards when he's the starter, right? So, I mean, I just like, I'm taking the toll there. And obviously, like you say, you got Jerome Ford. So, you got a very talented backfield. And I wonder if that has anything to do with, maybe being hesitant to give him such a large extension due to the fact that he felt he could get similar production out of his backups versus Kareem Hunt. I don't disagree with you that I think that some other teams would be glad to give up some compensation to get Kareem Hunt. A first rounder, I don't agree. I don't think somebody like the Buffalo Bills are going to give up a first rounder for Kareem. I think giving up a second is easily, and maybe even more, maybe even a second and a fourth, definitely makes sense to me because, like you said, I mean, Kareem on most teams is going to be or at least half the teams in the NFL is going to be your number one running back. I mean, he wouldn't even be number 2 on the Colts roster. I'm just saying, but yeah, Kareem, this is very, very drastic.
He would be
Obviously
number
for
2
Kareem.
on the Colts roster. He would be. He would be 2 on the Colts roster.
No, he'd be 3.
He'd be 2.
No, he'd be 3.
He is better than Naheem
Hines.
Hines.
Is better than Kareem Hunt.
He is no.
As a running back, no. But when you're talking about what a number 2 running back can do for you, Hines is way better of a receiver than Kareem Hunt. Way better. 100%. I ain't seeing Kareem Hunt going for 40-yard touchdown passes down the field. That's not Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt can make catches in the slip screen game. Of course he can. He's got great vision. But you're not sending Kareem Hunt out to both be a runner and line up as a wide receiver. You're not getting that out of Kareem Hunt. So listen, we can debate this all you want, but you're not changing my mind about Hines being a better number 2 for the Colts than what Kareem.
Crazy. You could ask Josh if he would agree with me.
I'm just saying. But I do agree with you. The majority of teams would give up a good haul to try and bring Kareem Hunt in because, like you said, Kareem still has a lot of good left in him. So
I think a first round pick is not I think it's not too far fetched because especially teams that are on the cusp. I mean, the Chiefs, look back when he was playing for them. If that year that they lost in the championship game, they got rid of Kareem Hunt halfway through the season, and Patrick Mahomes lost in the championship game to Tom Brady and the Patriots. Had he had Kareem Hunt that season in the playoffs and in that championship game, they would have been playing in their 3rd straight Super Bowl, and they would have been playing in the Super Bowl that year. I'm telling you this, he is a good enough back that he is going to be the missing piece to a lot of people. If he tested free agency right now and he went to the Rams, to the Bills, to the Chiefs, back to the Chiefs, or, even to the Bucks, there is so many teams out there that could use him that could be the missing piece because the Bills don't have a run game. The Chiefs don't have a run game. There was another team that was important, but they don't have. There's a lot of teams that don't have a good run game, and that is what's missing for them and putting them over the top to be that team that, okay, we're right here. Now that we got this guy, we're going to go to the Super Bowl. He is their missing piece in the running game that could set them over the edge. And I think somebody would give up a first round pick for Kareem Hunt. If,
it would have to be a contender. A contender would be the only one that would potentially even consider that a possibility.
Oh yeah. Which is why I said the Bills or somebody up in that upper echelon of teams, somebody that's going to be competing for a title. I could see somebody like the Chargers doing it too, even though they feel like they've got Eckler, he's able to do the same thing. But you bring Eckler and Hunt in there, it's not a bad combo. Even the Broncos might do it, having Russell Wilson and pairing Russell Wilson, Kareem Hunt, and Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton in there. That's a deadly offense right there. So I feel like the Broncos would do it as well. And John Elway would be stupid enough to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go into another player here, and that's Matthew Stafford. We kind of reported on it a few days ago that Matthew Stafford was reportedly playing with some severe pain in his elbow, his throwing elbow, and different reports have been coming out when it comes to Matthew Stafford and how he's playing. Matt Stafford downplayed the importance of this, stating that it's really just a little bit of soreness and we're monitoring it and, doing whatever. Do you buy, Chase, that Matt Stafford is really just playing with just a little bit of soreness in his elbow?
At this point, I'm skeptical just because, you've got like I could understand if it was like a running back or a wide receiver, like saying, "Oh, I'm playing with soreness in my foot. I'll get over it." But like this is a guy that's going to lead your offense, and you're going to need him for the entire season. And he puts all the wear and tear on his arm that he's using to help win a game. I don't think that this is something that he should downplay, but for media purposes, I feel like he is. But I do feel like there's more going on there than what is being reported and what's leading on. Because if he does not play in any of the 3 preseason games, we know that there's a lingering issue with his elbow. Like that for a fact, because they'll either have him on a pitch count in the preseason. They'll be like, all right, you're gonna do the first 2 drives and then get out. Or you're going to be like, you're going to do the first drive or the first like 3 downs and then get out of there. Like they're going to do something to limit him to where he is not going to be out on the field the entire time. That's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think there is a little more to this than Matt Stafford saying. Of course, Matt Stafford's just taking the high road here saying, oh, it's not that serious. Well, if it wasn't that serious, then people would not continue to keep reporting on it like as if there's something more to this than what you're letting on. So, I mean, it's going to come down to, like you said, just seeing how he is over time. But another player that's recovering from some recent surgeries and rehab, that's Michael Thomas, wide receiver from the Saints. And he's actually been on the field for the first time this week and has been participating in the individual drills and in the one-on-ones at times. And I mean, Michael Thomas has been looking really good. He's looked very solid, and the Saints feel very confident that when the season comes around that he will be ready for the season. Now, Chase, I'll ask you, if Michael Thomas is ready to go fully when the season starts and is healthy throughout the whole season, is this a team that has a shot of going all the way?
Oh, gosh, I would have said if Peyton was there, yes, but I'm going to say yes, but with the twist. It's all depending on what Dennis Allen can do. If he can get this team playing the way that Sean Payton normally would, then I would say yes. In a heartbeat, this is a team that can go the very big distance. I mean, we're talking about a team that was going through a carousel of quarterbacks last year. They went through 4 last year and finished 9-8. Okay. And that was without Michael Thomas. That was without Chris Olave. That was without Jarvis Landry. They've got Tyrann Mathieu. They've got an upgraded offensive line. They lost Armstead, but they got Penning. They also got Olave, and Michael Thomas is now recovered. And Jameis Winston has been said that he's looked the best that he's ever been in training camp. So it all matters on how the coach is. So we'll have to wait and see.
I mean, I'll tell you this, if Michael Thomas is good to go, I mean, that Saints offense easily has one of the best offenses in the NFC altogether. I mean, Michael Thomas, a few years removed from being the best receiver in the NFL. I mean,
one of the best. He wasn't the best. He was one of them.
He that season where he had almost 200 catches, he was the best wide receiver in the game that year. Obviously, after that, had a lot of injuries and a lot of other things that happened, but he was the best receiver that year when he was playing at that level. And Alvin Kamara is an easy top 10 running back. Chris Olave has been tearing it up at camp. Jameis Winston has definitely looked like a revamped quarterback right now, and their offensive line's still good. I'd agree with you. If Peyton was there, I would feel more confident in this team's ability to go all the way. But this team, if it stays healthy with its core, I mean, this team's making the playoffs, no question about it. There's just too much talent for them to not make it at this point. So
I got a question for you about Michael Thomas, and I've also got a really bold hot take. Now, do you think that this offense stays intact all season long?
You talking about like with the Saints?
Yes.
stays intact.
Yes.
Now, what do you mean by that?
Because my bold take that I've got, by the NFL trade deadline, Michael Thomas will no longer be a Saint.
You know, I've heard all the stuff about, Michael Thomas, wanting to he said some stuff about the Saints and talked about their unwillingness to do whatever they can to help him get back from injury. So I wouldn't put it past it, but I do believe this offense stays intact this year. Now, when it comes to next free agency, no, but for the season, yeah.
I'm only saying that because the Saints are in cap hell and Michael Thomas is taking up a good chunk of their salary cap. And mind you, if they are in a position where they feel like they could make the playoffs, then I could see them not. But if I feel like their record by the trade deadline is like 3-8, then I don't see them going anywhere. I see them trading Michael Thomas for like a first-round pick or trying to get a first-round pick out of him. And if they do, they will trade him because they don't have a first-rounder this year. And I could see them getting a young stud wide receiver in the draft next year to build around, develop, and, be cheap for the next 3 to 4 seasons. And that way you can bring in like some more key pieces to help, push this team over the edge and go even further. So
yeah, I think it'd be a smart idea for them to potentially get something for it definitely would be a smart idea to try to get rid of Michael Thomas.
Right? Because like if by the trade deadline, he's having one of the best seasons that he's had since he's been healthy, his trade value will skyrocket and go through the roof. And if they are in a position where they feel like, okay, we don't have the cap, we need trade compensation so we can get a first rounder back at least, or try to. And then, he's having a great season. We are not going to make the playoffs. I could see Michael Thomas leaving the Saints and being traded to a contender, or at least to somebody that's got enough money to pick up his contract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, let's go into another thing. Let's go into the Deshaun Watson situation. So while we wait for the NFL to announce its decision on what it's going to do with Deshaun Watson, NBC's reporter Peter King announced today that he talked with somebody in the influence of the NFL and stated that this person was basically going around saying that people inside the NFL are taking issue with Watson's rigged contract and stating that it's not, that they don't enjoy what the Browns did in regards to this season, basically just giving him a base salary of $1 million in the anticipation that he would get suspended for a year and that the rest of that $235 million is going to come after that. So, people were not excited about the fact that basically the Browns anticipated this happening and took a chance to, get him less money this year so they could do stuff with the team and then give him the contract once his suspension might be over. Chase, do you take an exception to what the Browns did in structuring this contract, or do you think that, all the other NFL teams are just still caught up in all the controversy?
I think that the NFL owners and people have no room to talk, because when Zeke was getting suspended for the 6 games that he was, and it was going to be a for sure thing, Jerry Jones pushed all that money into the future so that way Zeke would not miss out on getting paid like what he wanted to. And I think that, if you're going to pay a guy this much money and it's going to be fully guaranteed, you don't want to lose out on that investment, especially if it's Deshaun Watson, because like if he lost out on 40 or like not even 40 million or $40 million this year, he could sit there and be like, well, I'm not happy with that, and decide that he may not want to play next year or may not want to do whatever. So that's one side of it. But also on the other side of it, owners are so hypocritical, because I guarantee you, if it was a big name player for their team, like a quarterback, a all-star running back, or all-star wide receiver, whatever it may be, they would be doing the same exact thing, pushing the money into the future, putting it on a signing bonus, doing whatever they got to do to protect their asset for years to come. This is a business first and a league second. People forget about that. And Roger Goodell and everybody else lets the fans control the league rather than let the owners and GMs control the league, because this is a business, okay? It doesn't matter. You don't have fans without having players. If you piss off the players, then so what? You could have all the fans you want, but if you don't have players to sit there and bring the fans in, then you're just screwed. So you got to make the players happy before you make the fans happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with you. Like, any other team that is taking on the risk of a player that they assume might get suspended, and I mean, people are knocking the Browns for thinking ahead. I mean, question the morale of signing him all you want, but talking about the contract itself, that was smart. That was smart business by the Browns. I don't see how that's a problem. Like,
they did the same thing with Amari Cooper. They pushed all of his money into the future, so that way they could have a less salary to pay this year and more money to pay in the next upcoming years. So that way they could bring more guys in during free agency. Andrew Berry is a mad genius when it comes to this kind of stuff, and he's thinking ahead and thinking of the future of his franchise rather than trying to think in the now and here. And Derek, if it was any other team, nobody would bat an eye about it. But because it's the Cleveland Browns and people like to talk their smack about them because they're not in the upper echelon of, contenders and teams that are successful, they like to talk all the crap that they want, and nobody wants to see the Browns succeed. I've been saying that time and time again. Nobody wants to see it.
Yeah, it's just it's stupid, because it's just like, get over yourselves. Like, I mean, just the simple fact is they're just mad because the Browns got Deshaun Watson and they signed him knowing that he was probably going to get suspended, and they're just questioning the morality of the selection, not of the contract. The contract has nothing to do with it. It's just like anybody else that does anything else. If you sign a person to a contract, it happens in the regular world all the freaking time. So I don't know why it's a problem. Everyone signs contracts. Contracts can be set up any way that you want to. If you know in the first year of somebody's contract, they may either have some troubles that will prevent them from being able to fulfill certain job requirements, then you nullify that contract so that first year, you don't pay them as much in precaution that you won't get production out of them. And then the next years after, when you're more certain that there's things that are going to happen, then you give them more money. I mean, it really makes me wonder, like, if it's really anyone that's concerned about it, or if it's just Peter King talking nonsense. Because it could quite possibly be.
It could. Don't get me started on Peter King. Like, this dude, I question his logic sometimes. But let me ask you this. Where was everybody at when the Panthers, Falcons, and Saints were going after Deshaun Watson? How would everybody be looking at those teams if Deshaun Watson had picked one of them? I feel like, as a Browns fan, Derek, I feel like nobody would have really cared, or nobody would have been really talking mad crap or like saying anything remotely terrible if it was one of those franchises doing that, because these are franchises that have had success, made it to the big game, blah, 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 done all that and more. But because he chose the Cleveland Browns and because we got him, we are the butt of everybody's jokes and the laughing stock of the league. But I guarantee you, had he picked the Saints or the Falcons or something like that, nobody would be this pressed about it. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, no, yeah, I mean, exactly. If the shoe was on anyone else's foot, they wouldn't be saying the same thing. Of course they wouldn't. I mean, it's literally just, oh, well, we can talk crap about you now because we didn't get this guy. But if he was on our team, then we wouldn't be saying that same thing. So yeah, I totally agree with you. It's
mind boggling because nobody wants to see us have success. Like we could pick up Aaron Rodgers next year and drop Deshaun Watson, and everybody'd be like, you guys are still going to go like 9-7 and stuff like that. You got a dysfunctional organization. And even with Aaron Rodgers, you're still not going to win and go to the playoffs. Like we could pick up Aaron Rodgers or we could pick up Josh Allen for some like forsaken reason, and everybody would still think that we are a poverty franchise and would never succeed. Like that's just the stigma of the Cleveland Browns. And until we get to the AFC Championship or the big game, people are always going to look down on us and talk their mad crap.
Yep, absolutely, man. It's how it is. Well, let's go into one other thing, and then we'll get into the heat of this episode, which is our top 10 corners. NFL or basically the Dallas Cowboys have been in the news a lot this week. That's right. America's team supposedly has reportedly been having some rough times at camp this week. Starting with Trayvon Diggs, the first team all-pro cornerback from last year, has reportedly been getting shredded by wide receivers all throughout camp so far. Not just been including CeeDee Lamb. Apparently, there's been some undrafted free agents that have been burning Trayvon Diggs off the edge. And Trayvon has actually deleted his Twitter account because he was getting roasted so much that he decided it was better just to not see it and decided to delete his Twitter account. So that was first thing. And then this week so far, what we've seen through 2 days at camp, Dak Prescott has been getting sacked 3 or 4 times a practice so far in the 11-on-11 drills that they've been doing. Offensive line has looked atrocious, actually so bad to the point where Dallas Cowboys fans were actually booing Dak Prescott for getting sacked for the 4th time at Monday's practice. So, I mean, Chase, obviously this is camp and things happen, and of course, you know, it's not always set in stone, but you're seeing Dak Prescott getting pressured easily, and you're seeing Trayvon Diggs, who some people claim is a top 5 cornerback already in this league, and is getting burnt by these undrafted free agents that the Cowboys are selecting.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, is there reason to be concerned in Dallas right now?
I think there is, because not only is, Diggs getting cooked. Mind you, you would have thought that he would have been working on his craft this offseason with his brother, who is a wide receiver, who could help him. But, not only is it with Trayvon Diggs, it's also Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott, I've seen some videos, and it may just be the way that the video was, and like it was a quick glance, but this dude looked like he had one too many Big Macs this offseason and was like going slow through the pad drills and, taking off and, having a stutter step and not being the normal agile self that he once was. And honestly, if he could just, cut his beard, cut his hair, get back to the Zeke that we had back in 2017 and 2018, he could be a dominant running back still in this league. But he doesn't want to do that. Now that he's got the money, now that he's getting paid, he's not putting in the work. And I think that it's, the stigma of the Dallas Cowboys is like you've got that star in your helmet. You come into this league, you want to be well-known, you become well-known, you get paid, and then you just slack off because it's just like you're a part of America's team. They're not going to do anything. And for everybody out there, I'm going to say the same thing that I told Derek before we started. The Dallas Cowboys, and you guys may not want to hear this, but the Dallas Cowboys will not win a Super Bowl until Jerry Jones forfeits the reins of the organization to his son, Steven. And it's being shown now how bad of an influence Jerry Jones is having on this organization, because any calls that his front office staff is making, or the scouts or whatever it may be, he's got the final say. Zeke, we all know that Tony Pollard right now could probably give you more carries and be a more explosive back at the moment than Zeke can. But Jerry Jones has stepped in and came out and said that he wants a bulk of the carries going to Zeke. He wants him being a focal point of the offense, and they want the ball to go through him. When honestly, looking at it now, friggin' Zeke is not once what he was. And I think Tony Pollard could step in there and be the next best thing. And Jalen Tolbert has been lighting it up in training camp today. So I think that in order for Dallas to succeed, they need to fix Trayvon Diggs. They need to fix Ezekiel Elliott. And they also need to fix, not handing the ball off to the referee with 14 seconds left to go and no timeouts. So they need to fix that, and then maybe they can win a playoff game and go further than the wild card round. Bottom line.
I'll just say this. When it comes to the Trayvon Diggs thing, look, everyone has their opinions on him. Had the most interceptions last year of any cornerback in the league, while also giving up the most receiving yards of any cornerback in the league. Mm-hmm. It's like Brett Favre. It's like Brett Favre at cornerback. You have an insane amount of touchdowns, but in the same breath, you have a shit ton of interceptions that come that way. So it's like, do you love the idea of all those touchdowns while at the same time understanding that that person who's throwing those touchdowns is also giving up the ball way more often than he should be? It's kind of the same thing with Trayvon. So look, I've said my piece when it comes to him. He's not a top 10 cornerback, in my opinion. You can have all the interceptions you want. You can have 15 interceptions for all I care. But if you're giving up over 1,000 yards in a season to the wide receivers that you're guarding, you don't deserve to be top. You don't deserve to be top 10 in my book, because that just means, you're making 15 big plays, but you're giving up 50 to 100 big plays on the other side. So that's just me. And this offensive line for Dallas is not as good as it once was.
Their first round pick lost over 65 pounds. Did you see that?
What? Who?
Their first round pick, their guard that they got.
Oh yeah. It was that kid from Florida. I forget what his name is.
I forgot too.
But yeah, 65. What?
65 pounds.
No way.
Yeah, it could be a photoshopped video and everything, but it was all over social media and people were talking about it. And they were talking about how he's lost so much weight, and he was a big dude getting drafted, and now you can see it in his body and his face and everything. He is so much thinner and all that. It could have been
Tulsa
fake.
Offensive lineman. I'm sorry, Tyler Smith. But I'm looking it up. I'm trying to see.
It could have been fake. And I might be wrong about it, but if it was being all over social media, I don't know if it is fake.
I don't know. I'm trying to see where that is, because I ain't.
Did you say his name was Tyler Smith?
Yeah, Tyler Smith. Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talks and reports coming out that he lost a significant amount of weight and is thinner than what he was when he got drafted. I'm not sure if it was 60 pounds or if it was 40 pounds or whatever it was, but there's been a lot of talks that he lost a lot of weight.
Hold on. Yeah, I think I'm seeing some Cowboys rookie jokes. He'll eat a couple cows to make up for the lost weight. So it wasn't, I don't think it was Tyler Smith, but this defensive tackle that they drafted in the 5th round, the massive 6'5", 320-pound defensive tackle. And then he said basic one thing the guy may not have been expecting was Texas heat. The Illinois native was losing precarious calories to sweat thanks to the 90-degree weather. It doesn't say how much weight he would have lost, but apparently he's lost enough weight for somebody to talk about it. It's funny because I'm gonna be moving to Texas as well. So, maybe I have that same thing happen. I'm fine with that.
Come back
if
like
I were
30
to
pounds
lose
later.
60 pounds, homie, I'll take it, bro. I need it. Dude, if I lost 60 pounds, like right now where I'm at, I'd be the same weight that I was when I left high school.
Dang.
Not joking. I'd be the same weight that, or maybe even a little less than what I was when I was when I left high school. So that would be dope.
That would be, but the Cowboys have a lot that they got to fix in order for them to have the success that they once did. And, we just, there's a lot. All right. So before we get
the Sauce Gardner and Derek Stingley comparison.
Yes. So before we get into our top 10 corners, I want to talk about a major issue that a lot of people had leading the days after the draft. And then a few weeks after the draft. Okay, was the Sauce Gardner and Derek Stingley controversy. And that's still going on to this day. And when we went into the draft, everybody was on the same page, or at least we thought that Sauce Gardner was the consensus number one corner taken in the draft. This man did not give up a single touchdown in college football and was a dominant lockdown corner, especially against the Alabama weapons that they had. And yet Derek Stingley was the first corner taken off the board. And I went back and watched this film on Derek Stingley. He's great. He is a phenomenal athlete. But with the lingering injury that he had and him not playing since 2019, you had a lot of major concerns and major issues. Derek, I think both me and you agreed that Sauce Gardner was the best corner out of this draft class and should have been taken before Derek. What's your thoughts on this? Do you still think that Sauce is better? And do you think that Sauce will have a better career?
Yes, I still believe that Sauce Gardner is the better cornerback. When people were looking at it at the exception of, okay, so Stingley at the peak of his career when he was a young freshman at LSU was one of the best corners in college football and was a turnover machine. That's what you heard from him. Now, Sauce was a little bit different in the sense that, in over 1,000 passing plays in his college football career, never once gave up a touchdown. He wasn't a turnover machine, but he was a guy that locked down that side of the field. And there were times where teams just wouldn't even throw it his direction. That's why his teammate, former Cincinnati cornerback Kobe Bryant, won the Jim Thorpe Award because Kobe ended up having 7 interceptions that year because they refused to throw it to Sauce Gardner's side. Most of the opponents they faced up until they got to the college football playoff did not want to throw it in Sauce Gardner's direction because nobody wants to throw it towards a 6'2", 200-pound corner that has ball instincts better than any corner in college. So, at the end of the day, it's all going to come down to, how they're coached, what they're willing to learn, and if they're going to adapt their play styles. And obviously, I thought that Stingley at his peak is a more athletic cornerback than what Sauce Gardner is, but Sauce Gardner has the length. Sauce Gardner has the size. Sauce Gardner has the mental wherewithal at the moment to be better than Stingley at this moment. And I just think that if you're going to choose me to pick one that I would rather have a guy that is going to lock down one side of the field more than, it's the same thing. If I wanted to say a Stephon Gilmore or JC Jackson, right? JC Jackson, you're going to get interceptions. JC Jackson, that's his thing. But Stephon Gilmore, it's different. Gilmore doesn't quite get the amount of interceptions that J.C. Jackson has throughout his career, but Stephon was locked down. I mean, you would not want to throw it to his side. It was the same kind of argument we always said. We always compared Sauce Gardner to Darrelle Revis, right? It makes sense now because he's going to the Jets. Matter of fact, Darrelle Revis Island, they called it, was in Jets territory. So, at the end of the day, I would take Sauce every time. Obviously, it's going to just all come down to how much they want it at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this and then we'll move on. I think that the Texans might have made a mistake. I'm not going to say that for sure because, the potential and upside for Stingley is still there and it's still good. But I think in terms of getting a consensus defensive player that can come in, change your franchise, change your secondary, and be the guy that you need them to be, especially in the AFC South where they've got some decent wide receivers, and they could lock them down. It's no question that Sauce would have been the better pick here, but we'll have to wait and see. I think with Sauce being on the Jets, Robert Saleh being the head coach, being a defensive-oriented guy, he may step up and be what he needs to be. But that's it for me on that. I just wanted to bring that up because there's been a lot of talks about those two lately and how Sauce has been lighting it up in training camp, and we have not heard a hide nor tail of Derek Stingley and how he's doing.
Yeah.
But with the topic of corners, we are now going to move on to our top 10 corners list. The past few streams and few videos, we've done our offensive list of top 10 running backs, top 10 wide receivers, and top 10 quarterbacks. Here is our top 10 corners in the National Football League. Derek,
you want to go from 10 to 1 or do you want to go 1 to 10?
We will go from 1 to 10.
Okay. Now, can we all agree who the number 1 is, or
Jalen Ramsey?
Yeah, it's Ramsey. I feel like that one we can all agree on. But
I want to sit here and say that Ramsey is another human being out of this world, because did you see the interview that he had with his dad and brothers and agent after the Super Bowl?
No, I didn't see it.
There was a conversation that he had saying that he was not satisfied with the Super Bowl ring. He said that he wanted to get back to work, watch the film that he had, and figure out the mistakes that he made against Jamar Chase and go back and correct it. He did not want to,
because I don't think he was happy with his play in that game. I don't think he was happy with it. And there were many times that Jamar Chase burned him, made him look silly. So I think he was happy that they won, but I just don't think he was satisfied with his own performance.
Yeah, and he's got that mindset of a true number 1 DB, true number 1 corner in the league. And I went back and rewatched some of the film. There was a couple times where he got tripped up by Jamar Chase. So that's why that one play at the end there where, he would have been wide open, Jalen tripped over Jamar's feet as they were going down the field. But that right there should go and show you that if he was not satisfied with his performance, even after winning a Super Bowl ring and doing that, and he wants to get to work immediately after the season just ended, that just goes to show you that he's a consensus number 1 corner. No question.
Oh yeah, totally agree. All right. Well, number 2, you want me to go first or you want to go first?
I have, and a guy that is being criminally underrated by a lot of people, including Madden, underrated this guy to all hell. Jair Alexander.
Yes.
Jair Alexander is the number 2 corner in the National Football League.
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy that has gone up against Justin Jefferson in his division, has gone up against some of the better wide receivers in the league, and has shut them down. The reason why
he's one of the only few I think he's one of the corners that Jalen Ramsey put in his top 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I don't know who his other two were, but yeah, I think it was Jair.
I think it was Denzel, and then I think it was it might have been Trayvon. But I know Denzel and Jair were in there. So
yeah. And Jamar also said that the toughest corner that he went up against last year was Denzel Ward, not Jalen Ramsey.
Yep. I totally agree with you there. I mean, Jair at 2 makes total sense. I think everyone just doesn't like him just due to the fact that he's been injured a little bit over the last year and a half. But when Jair is out there, I could argue there isn't a better corner. I mean, honestly, we all both just said Jalen Ramsey was number 1. But when you're talking about sheer dominance, Jair locks down a side better than Jalen Ramsey can at times. I mean, Jair is freakishly good. And he's still so young. Isn't he only 25 or something? 25, 26?
Yeah, I'm trying to look at that right now. But, this is also a guy that is 5'10". 5'10".
Yeah, he's 5'10". He was born in 97, homie. He's freaking 25. He's 25 years old. And that's how good he freaking is.
And this man, ever since he got in the league in 2018, has played a significant amount of games. He played in 13 games his rookie year, 16 the next year, 15 the year after that. And then last year was his first season where he really missed a significant amount of games, playing in only 4. This dude has been an all-pro, or second-team all-pro, has been won the award for or he was actually voted in the top 5 corners in the league by several players, finished in the top 10 in the top 100 players of the NFL. And just looking at his numbers, it's crazy that people do not have him in their top, at least in the top 3. People have him at 5, 6, or even 7 at times. And I think it's absolutely insane that people are criminally underrating this guy because, it's just insane. You can't.
It's crazy to think that you and I. It's crazy to think that you and I are so similar in how we're doing these lists now. It's actually kind of scary because, I guess you and I do think alike in quite a few of these. Chase, I guess we underestimated how much alike we actually are when it comes to a football mindset. Because you and I, we had the top 5 running backs all the same way. We had
no, we didn't. You had McCaffrey at 5. I had Mixon at 5.
Okay. Well, top 4, top 6 for the wide receivers was the same. Top 2 for the cornerbacks is the same. Now let's look at number 3. Okay, let's look at number 3. I'll go first. I said Xavien Howard of the Dolphins. Xavien Howard is a phenomenal player. And it's funny because I oftentimes think of him as a safety, but I think it's just because he's so elite that he can play in a bunch of different roles. Anywhere they need him on the defense, he can do it, right? I mean, he's that athletic. He's that smart. He knows how to play. He's a great ball hawking corner. And there is just no way when you look at his production that you can keep him out of your top 5. So for number 3 for me is Xavien Howard.
See, I'm going to have to go a different route here. Okay. Just because I do have Xavien in my top 5. No doubt about that. Okay. 100%. It's a lockdown consensus 5, but number 3, it is difficult for me to sit here and look at who they all have, but honestly, I changed what I said. I'm actually going to put Xavien at 3. I really wanted to pick somebody else. I really wanted to pick somebody else here, but looking at the rankings that I've got, the next guy, if he would have been able to play for this entire season, I would have had him higher on my list and maybe even in the top 5, and that would have been Marlon Humphrey. I would have had Marlon Humphrey in my top 5 and possibly at the 3 spot had he been able to play and stay healthy. But I do feel like he's going to fall off a bit. especially after the significant ACL injury that he had. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Xavien Howard. You know, everybody wants to talk about all the interceptions and everything for corners, and they're like, oh, well, he's literally got like all interceptions and he's got nothing else to show for as a corner and everything. I'm like, but this dude also locks down wide receivers like it's, you know, nothing. And I think that he's being overlooked and overshadowed because the Dolphins really have not been relevant that much over the past few years. So I'm going to go with Xavien at 3 as well.
Okay. Number 4. Who's your number 4?
I may be biased by saying this, but I'm going to say Denzel Ward. You know, last year I had him, or no, actually scratch that. Take out Denzel Ward. I'm going to put Marshon Lattimore at 4. Marshon Lattimore at 4.
Folks, I promise you that was not written. I promise you it wasn't. Okay, but continue.
Did you have Lattimore at 4?
I was thinking you were gonna do that Ward thing. I thought that was what you were gonna do, but listen, I agree.
Lattimore,
I agree,
because
Marshon.
like you can.
I agree, Marshon. I think everyone gives him a crappy time for the fact that Marshon gets like put up against like guys like Mike Evans all the time, and people love to just go back and forth with the Mike Evans BS. But like, Marshon's been really good ever since coming into the league. I mean, Marshon had very little experience at Ohio State before he came into the league. But when he stepped on the field for the first time, you knew Marshon Lattimore was elite. You knew he was different. And he has been one of the cornerstones of that defense for the Saints since he got there. And I definitely think he deserves to remain in the top 5, even though some people believe he might have lost some of his edge. I don't think so. I think he's still good enough to remain in the top 5. That's why he's my 4.
Yeah, I agree with you because, you know, he's gone up against Michael Thomas every day at practice, or at least tried to. You had him go up against a lot of receivers in the NFC South that were pretty damn good. And not to mention, like, he's been elite since he stepped on the field. And I think, like you said, coming out of Ohio State, he really didn't get that much work with a lot of big name guys, and it was tough. But like, he lived up to the challenge. You know, coming into a division that he had to face Julio Jones twice a year and go up against him was deadly. And he locked Julio Jones down most of the time.
Oh yeah,
and you know, kept him at bay, and that's hard to say for a guy of his caliber at that point in time when he was playing. So Marshon does not get the credit that he deserves as a top 5 corner or even a top 10 corner. People barely have him in their top 10. They have him at like 8, 9, or 10. And I'm like, that's a little disrespectful to a guy who has been a cornerstone key piece of the Saints defense. So I don't know. Who do you got at 5?
Number 5, that for me is going to be AJ Tyrell. AJ, and it was a toss up between this guy and who the next guy is for me. Honestly, I could go back and forth with this. I would probably go 5A, 5B. It just depends. But AJ Tyrell has been one of the few bright spots on a Falcons defense that has just been abysmal for the last like 15 years. AJ surprised a lot of people. I mean, he was a good corner at Clemson, but I don't think a lot of people were as surprised by his skill set as some other people thought. Apparently the Falcons took a chance on AJ Tyrell versus some of the other cornerbacks that could have been drafted the year that he got drafted. But AJ's been locked down. I mean, he's been very much locked down. So I'm going to go AJ Tyrell with me at number 5. Who do you have at number 5?
I'm going to go with my guy Ward. I mean,
okay.
this BS of Tyrell being better than Denzel Ward is absolutely astonishing, because there is so many people that have AJ Tyrell above Denzel Ward. And it baffles me because look at all of the teams that Ward played last year and all of the receivers that he played. A top 10 guy in Jamar Chase. He played Justin Jefferson. He played Devontae Adams. He also played some other big name wide receiver too. I just can't remember who it was. But out of those 3 guys, he held all of those guys under 50 yards and no touchdowns on him. 50 yards and no touchdowns. Devontae Adams had 5 targets, 4 catches for 48 yards. Justin Jefferson had 4 targets, 4 catches for 39 yards. And Jamar Chase had 7 targets with 5 catches for 42 yards and no touchdowns. He also had 3 interceptions, a pick 6 that went from the other end zone all the way down to the other end of the field. And he has shown that he has locked down every number 1 guy that you put in his face and held them under 50 yards. And people want to sit there and say that AJ Tyrell is a better lockdown corner and better than what Denzel Ward is. And that's baffling to me. I mean, I may be biased and I may be, terrible for saying this, but I think that the stats and the play prove otherwise when it comes to those 2 guys.
I'll say this. I definitely agree with you that Denzel Ward is more of a lockdown corner than AJ Tyrell is. And the interceptions, they both had the same number of interceptions last year. Obviously, Denzel Ward had the interception for a touchdown. We saw that, the pick 6 off of Joe Burrow, when they did end up playing them. I would just say this. Tyrell had double the amount of tackles that Denzel Ward had. Double. I mean, Ward had 43 tackles this last year, and Tyrell had 82. So from a tackle standpoint, he had to do a lot more. AJ Tyrell had to cover a lot more different things. And you mentioned how that the opponents that Denzel Ward is facing obviously are more difficult. You're absolutely right. He probably had to face a couple more difficult wide receivers than what AJ Tyrell had to face. But we talk about what the corners hope for is a great pass rush and hope for a better defense all around them to allow them to just play in their spot. And Denzel Ward is in that position because he's got a good defense all around him. You have one of the best edge rushers, probably the best edge rusher in the NFL in Myles Garrett. You have some really good young linebackers. You have a couple other guys in your secondary that, you feel comfortable at least them being out there doing their job. But Tyrell, he had Deion Jones, and that's all he got. He ain't got nobody else. He really does not have anyone else on that defense to help him. AJ feels like he has to take it upon himself to do more for that defense because he is the best defensive player they have.
I mean, Ward would be in the same position if they didn't have anybody on defense. If the Falcons
exactly, but he does. That's what I'm saying. The tackle production he doesn't get because Tyrell has to do more of that. So I understand that the stats from a interception standpoint and from a lockdown coverage standpoint, I get you. Also, Tyrell had double the amount of pass blocks as pass deflections as Ward did. Ward had 10 and Tyrell had 19 the previous year. So look, I get it. It's very close. Like I told you, it's 5A, 5B for me. I could go back and forth either way with these guys. Ward is elite. AJ Tyrell is elite. I mean, these guys are the best at what they do. That's why I'm going to put him at 6. I mean, for all the same reasons that you mentioned. I think Denzel Ward does a lot of great things on defense that I think a lot of times just gets overshadowed. I would agree with you. I think for some weird reason, Denzel Ward gets overshadowed. I don't know why that is. I think it might just be because Myles Garrett's on that defense and everyone talks about Myles Garrett over Denzel Ward. But Yeah, Denzel Ward, I just don't know. He doesn't make a ton of the big plays, but he's locked down, right? And that's why I think people just forget about him because the stats don't pop off the screen like some other guys do. But Denzel Ward, easy top 10. You can make the argument of him being in the top 5. So he'll be my number 6. Who do you have at number 6?
This is where I've got AJ Terrell. I mean, the argument for the tackling, I understand your point, and I get it. As a guy that, played DB, as a guy that, was that watches football all the time, and I understand it. I get it. But like the tackles are not one thing that you're really, looking to pop off at a corner position, because that if you've got other defensive guys, and if AJ Terrell had the same defense that we had, his tackles would be the same as Denzel Ward's. They would be a lot lower. Like, you do not need to worry about tackling that much when you're out there playing lockdown. You're more worried about your lockdown stats and how much yards you're giving up and how many touchdowns you're giving up and what you're doing back here and how many pass deflections you've got and things like that. That's what you're more worried about when you're playing corner. You're not worried about, oh, he's got 80 tackles and everything, but that just goes to show you that they're running the ball to his side more, or they're like throwing little short passes to his side, and then he's going up and tackling them and everything. Like that's the one thing that you're not that focused on as a corner. And I think that AJ Terrell is a great up and coming corner, but in terms of stats, in terms of lockdown, in terms of opponents that they've played, Denzel's played more tougher opponents, kept them under 50 yards each, not given up a single touchdown to any big name guys, and has shown that he can be the, focal point of the secondary and be that go-to guy that you need. Being a lockdown guy is more important than being a guy that's going to get tackles, in my book, at least. I feel that, but that's why I have AJ right on the cusp of the top 5, and I've got him at number 6 for me.
Gotcha. Who's number 7?
My number 7 guy, I'm drawing a blank. Go ahead with your number 7.
All right. Number 7 for me is JC Jackson. I mean, I can't ignore the fact of what JC Jackson has been doing in the last few years. I mean, 4 years in this league, chasing 25 interceptions. I mean, that's insane. I mean, he's had 17 in the last 2 years. I mean, this guy is elite at taking away the ball in the secondary. No one in the NFL is doing it better right now than JC Jackson. So, I mean, you have to understand it. People are wondering, why is it that he's this far down if you're looking at it from that perspective? Because for the same argument you gave with AJ Terrell and with Denzel Ward, I think that the pure pass coverage percentage is just not there as compared to others. But of course, JC Jackson, for his ability to take away the football better than anyone else in this moment, absolutely deserves to be in this top 10. And you can make the argument for him being in the top 5 because of how many interceptions he's been accumulating over the years.
Yeah. I mean,
and 23 pass deflections last year, by the way. 23.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is insane. That is absolutely insane. Now, part of the question is, and I don't want to make this as an excuse, but you have seen it time and time again with players that leave this organization and go somewhere else and do not have the same success that they do when they are with this team. But can part of it be because he was with the New England Patriots and with that organization for so long? Like, is that why he had the success? Like, that's the thing that like kind of is going through my mind right now, because like
everyone has been asking that. They're kind of like, will he have that same success of getting 5 or 6 interceptions per year being with the Chargers? I mean, you could definitely argue. I mean, he's part of a more elite defense now. I mean, with Derwin James, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, those boys. I mean, they've got an elite defense on that side now, including adding JC Jackson. But you're right. I mean, it does come down to coaching. It does come down to how you use your personnel. And you're right. Do they get the best out of JC Jackson? And if he goes this season only getting like 3 interceptions or less, then that's a very disappointing outcome, because you got the JC Jackson who in his last 3 seasons has had 22 interceptions, right? So was averaging 7.5 interceptions a year over the last 3 years. So you're hoping to get similar production. If he doesn't, then yeah, you're thinking it's going to be a kind of a letdown.
Yeah. No, I understand. And like that's the part of the mindset that I've got. Like, you know, because we've seen it with Kyle Van Noy, we've seen it with Jamie Collins, we've seen it with like just phenomenal athletes that have had career numbers and went over the top and then go to a different team and they falter and don't have that same production. LeGarrette Blount had 19 touchdowns with the Patriots and didn't do anything after that. So like, you know, I'm not taking away from the play that he is, and I'm not saying that he's not a bad corner, but I want to see if he can have that same production this year as he did like last year. But for my number 7 guy, I'm going to go with the guy that did not play this past year. And I know that you're probably thinking like, why are you putting a guy that did not play over a guy that had, you know, phenomenal numbers? And because I think that with this guy fully healthy and out on the field, he is a game changer for his defense. And part of the reason why I believe that the Baltimore Ravens have a chance at a Super Bowl. And that is Marlon Humphrey. Marlon Humphrey, ever since entering the league, has shown that he is one of the top lockdown corners in the league. You know, in a division where you had Antonio Brown there for a little bit, you had other star wide receivers, you had Odell, you had Jarvis that you had to go up against. You had to, you had to face a lot of adversity when it comes to learning the position very quickly and learning how the Ravens do things. And I think that, you know, with his numbers that he's put up over the past few years, his stats have shown it, and he has the potential to be a top 5 corner if he can stay healthy. And we'll have to wait and see what he does coming off the injury. But I think Marlon Humphrey is a better corner than JC Jackson overall, just because of what he's done since entering the league. Now, don't get me wrong. It's a 1A, 1B situation like it is for Tyrell and Ward. I think that JC Jackson could be intertwined at that 7 and 8 spot, but I do have the 8 corner JC Jackson.
Okay. And I'm gonna tell you my number 8, and that's Marlon Humphrey. I'm gonna be right there with you. I think you're right. Marlon, I think, is actually the youngest person of this entire group that we have, and he's only 25. And I mean, he is, like you said, I mean, he is phenomenal. Again, doesn't have quite the interception totals that somebody like a JC Jackson does, but Marlon definitely is an elite corner. And you're right. When he was not on the field for the Ravens last year, that was a huge blow, especially when, you know, you were talking about a bunch of different guys for Baltimore not playing last year, right? And he was one of the big ones. And when he went down, I mean, obviously that was a huge blow. So Marlon absolutely is a great cover corner. And I think it's great that he is getting the recognition that he does. You're right. If he keeps getting better, then he could definitely be fringe top 5. Number 9, this one might surprise you. But I'm gonna give this Eagles cornerback some love, and that's Darius Slay. I'm giving Slay the love at number 9. Even at his age of 31 years old, Darius Slay was one of the absolute best corners last year in man-to-man coverage. I think was number 2 in total man coverage. And when it came to pass coverage percentage, I mean, this guy is pure lockdown. He has been the it factor ever since coming into the league. He was like that with the Lions. He's like that now with the Eagles. I mean, it's only sucks that he can't be even better due to the fact that the Eagles defense was so atrocious the last couple years. But now they revamped that defensive line that they're hoping is going to get better. They got some linebackers to help in coverage. Darius Slay is going to now be able to do things he hasn't previously been able to do aggressive wise because of the personnel they've now surrounded that defense with. Darius Slay, quietly one of the most efficient corners in football, and that's why he still cracks my top 10.
Yeah, and I'm not going to give an explanation for it, but I'm going to put Darius Slay at number 9 for me as well.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, just because like he's been one of the most efficient guys ever since entering the league. But my number 10, this is going to be a very big shock to you, and I think that you're going to have a completely different opinion than me.
Okay.
And you're going to look at me like I'm freaking insane for saying this.
Okay.
I had a hard time sitting here thinking about this, and pairing him with Darius Slay was a fantastic choice. But I had a difficult choice in choosing between him and Kenny Moore being at number 10.
So you got Kenny at 10?
I do not.
What? Oh,
I do not.
No.
Who did you?
I'm not telling you what mine is. I want to hear your number 10.
You're going to give me so much shit for this, but I got James Bradberry at 10.
James Bradberry, are you shitting me? What?
I am. I'm joking.
Okay, yeah, you had to be. I knew you were joking. There's no way. Guys, see what he does to me? He does this to me all the time, and I don't like it. Make him stop bullying me. This is going to be, and guys, when I move up to his area in January of next year, and we're doing this in person, this is what it's going to be like. It's going to be face to face though, and I'm going to get a pen ready to throw at him every time he does something like this.
But no, I do think that was a great pickup for the Eagles, picking up James Bradberry. He was a good corner, and yes. I think he's got the potential to be phenomenal. Pairing him with Darius Slay with the Eagles and them picking him up, like, no question. I think that he's better than what people think he is, and he was the only good thing about the Giants defense last year. Let's just give it that.
Yes.
But I am going to go, and Derek, he's not that far off of the top 10. He really isn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I will go Kenny Moore with number 10.
I love that you did that. And I'm going to explain why. Okay. Cause we have been having this conversation in Colts Nation for like several years now, that people don't want to give Kenny Moore the credit he deserves because he's quoted as a nickel corner and a slot corner. Like, that's all he is. And people are like, slot corner needs to be its own category for some weird reason. And I mean, when you look at it from the perspective of just stats, let me give you some of the stats. He has had 4 interceptions in back-to-back years. Like, the only other guy on this roster or on this list of guys that has done that is JC Jackson. Like, none of these other guys are doing that right now. Getting 4 interceptions a year over the last couple years. And then on top of it, this last year, he had 102 tackles. 102 combined tackles, dude. Like, that is impressive. Like, I mean, I just mentioned to you AJ Tyrell getting 80 tackles. Like, how it is so hard as a cornerback to make tackles. That's why a lot of the elite ones you don't see do it. But that's 102 tackles. Like, there's some linebackers that don't even get that. Like, Kenny Moore is always around the football. Always making spectacular tackles. And on top of it, when you look at it from a sack production standpoint, there's some of these cornerbacks who have like 1 sack in their career. Kenny Moore has 7. Like, he always makes a big time sack somewhere, somehow during the season when it matters. And I mean, you just want to look at the stats. Just keep looking at the stats. I mean, the stats back it up. And Kenny Moore is the fewest amount of games he played in was 11 in 2019. He has played in 15 plus games every single season. He has never been out of it. Got selected to the Pro Bowl for the first time this year. Everything is aligned for Kenny Moore to be a top 10 cornerback. I don't care if he's slot majority of the time. His production and what he stands for makes him totally worth being a top 10 cornerback in this league.
Yep.
All right.
I would agree.
I think that's going to do it for this one, guys. That was a lot of fun. Again, Chase and I seem to have a very similar opinion on how this cornerback room should look. So
stop it.
What?
Stop agreeing with me.
I'm not trying to. It's just happening. You're the one that keeps changing your picks around last second. We would have had a much better debate if you would have just kept Ward at 4 and then put Lattimore at 5.
I completely forgot about Lattimore. I honestly did. And I could not do that to Lattimore. I really couldn't.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Let us know your thoughts on everything we discussed. This is the Chasing Larger Sports Stories podcast. Hope you all enjoyed. Have a great rest of your night.